So long story short, I'll just say we were best friends. Like this was my homie. This was the Christina to my Meredith. If you're a Grey's Anatomy fan, like this was my homegirl. And we had a very close relationship for a very long time. And then we had a huge schism in our friendship because of just some different philosophies. And again, not theological philosophies, just like literal like philosophies that we didn't agree on. And because we didn't agree on them, she felt that she needed to like distance herself from the friendship. Welcome back. Hey guys, welcome back to Coffee with Kay. Happy Friday. One of these days, I really hope that I can do a live recording of Coffee with Kay. I think it would be so fun. So, if you are new here or if you're a returnee, thank you so much for being here. Usually about 10 o'clock on Fridays is when I'm recording. If you ever want to go live with me and listen in and have like a live chat, definitely let me know in the comments what time and what time zone you're in so we can try and coordinate schedules. But if I don't do live recordings, you can expect that these will be released sometime on Friday afternoon when I finish editing them. So anyway, I'm going to jump right into it. I'm so glad to be back. I really love podcasting, honestly, and YouTubing now, I guess I should say, because I don't know, I feel like I'm actually getting to engage with people, even though I'm really just talking to a webcam. Doesn't really make sense to me. But soon, actually, next week, I have an interview lined up for you guys for Unpredictable 30s, season 5. And then I have 2 more interviews lined up at the end of July. So I actually am going to have some adult interaction these next coming weeks, and I'm very excited for that. And I'm very excited for these guests who are going to come on and share their stories about their unpredictable 30s, because I really think that you're going to have a lot to gain from those conversations and also get to hear some really interesting stories. So stay tuned, come back, because the next upcoming week's content is going to be superb. I promise. I wouldn't release it if it wasn't. And honestly, if you don't think my content is superb, let me know. Let me know how I can switch it up. Let me know how I can, I don't know, maybe bring different ideas to the table that I'm not already bringing. I really, really try and make my podcast and my content something that you don't see other people talking about. I think sometimes content creators, sorry if I'm calling you out right now, but I can go on YouTube after something big happens in pop culture or Christian culture and like 5 people are talking about the same thing. And I don't really want to hear 5 people talking about the same thing because you can only have so many varying opinions. So I really like to switch things up and keep things engaging and just different. I think it's really fun that way. And I just want to be different, and I want to introduce something different to this space that other people are not doing. So with that said, today's episode in season 5 of Coffee with Kay about unpredictable things is about friendships. Yay! I honestly, I love making friends, which is very interesting because I am more introverted. I like to call myself a social introvert because I do like to socialize with people. I do like to go to get-togethers and parties and girls' nights and clothes swaps. But when I have hit my max and I need to like step out, I need a silent room. I mean, dead silent, like no talking. I need like complete silence, like 21 Jump Street, complete silence. If you know, if you know what I'm quoting, that's one of my husband and I's favorite quotes because that's how we are. We just need like blah, 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 I can't hear you for an hour. And then I'm set and I'm ready to go back into the world and I'm fine. But I do now enjoy making friends a lot more than I used to. When I was a kid, I'm sure you guys would have never guessed this in a million years that I grew up in an all-white community. I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in Connecticut. I'm not a native Texan, hence why I do not have an accent. And I grew up in a small farming town in North Connecticut, and I was the only black girl in my grade, which was totally fine. But it really changed a lot about like who I ended up being when I grew up and even as a kid. And I just never felt like I could fit in. Dealt with some bullying, moved to a new high school. That was really hard in a new town. And then I moved to another high school again on the other side of the country where I knew absolutely nobody. And that was really hard. And so by high school, I was just like, I didn't even really want to try and make friends anymore. I was just over it. I didn't want to connect with people. And then I ended up making friends when I moved to Texas because how could I not? And honestly, a lot of those friends I made in Texas in high school, I'm still friends with to this day, which is really sweet to me. It's just a testimony of God's faithfulness to bring people in my life when I was going through a very difficult, lonely time. And they were some really, really good people because, like I said, I still am friends with them. And that was over 10 years ago. And so then in college, I had some ups and I had some downs. I had some people that I really should not have gotten wrapped up with. And then I also had some good friends I made in college that I'm still friends with to this day. And then, yeah, I got married and graduated college. And now I'm 30. And the past decade of making friends, keeping friendships, building relationships, letting relationships go has been really interesting. And that was something that I don't think I ever had any idea about. When I was younger, I remember my mom telling me, the people that you go to school with, like middle school, high school, you're never going to see them again. It's the people you meet in college who are usually going to be the ones that you're going to be friends with for the rest of your life. And honestly, I won't say that wasn't completely accurate because I do have a handful of friends from college that I'm still keep in touch with. I'm not necessarily close to them anymore. We're definitely still friends. We definitely like catch up when we can every so often. I feel like I always kind of describe it as like a mama spider with her baby spiders. I don't know if you've ever disrupted baby spiders off of a mom spider's back and they all just and like fly everywhere. It's disgusting. That's kind of how I felt when I graduated college. Like we had been in this hub together and then we graduated, we walked across that stage and then everybody's just spread out everywhere all over the country. And you're not just like you don't have that proximity anymore. And I think that's been true going through my 20s and now entering my 30s. I have this mantra that I came up with, just kind of my personal opinion, because I think in the Christian world, you hear this a lot that there's seasons for everything, which there are. Ecclesiastes 3 tells us there indeed are times for everything. There's a time for live, there's a time to die. There's a time for mourning, and there's a time for joy. There's a time for everything. And I love that verse. I love that chapter in Ecclesiastes because it has encouraged me during some incredibly hard times, especially when it comes to friendships, because I don't like that saying that friendships are for a season. What I like to say is that the season of there's a season of proximity for certain friendships. And so what I mean is I don't I do not personally believe that friendships should come and go. I believe that you should be a loyal friend, and that's just how I am. I am a very loyal friend. I really like to maintain relationships, and that's something I'm going to talk about in a little bit, so just keep a tab on that. But I don't like having to let friendships go. But I do see and believe that there are seasons of proximity in your relationships. So there was a season where my one of my old closest friends and I were roommates. And then I got married and I moved out and we tried to stay really close and connected, which we did. But like my husband and I moved away to finish our college internships and she stayed in our old city. And so that changed the proximity of the relationship because now there's 45 minutes in between us, whereas there used to be a 2-minute walk from room to room. And then she got married and then she moved to a different state. And so now we don't just have 45 minutes between us, we have like 4 states between us. And so that changes the proximity of the friendship where you're doing life in different places and your schedules and your places of living are not overlapping anymore. And so, yeah, your friendship is going to look different. Did that mean she and I were not super, super close friends anymore? By no means. And stuff happened, and we're not super close friends anymore. I don't know why. Put a tab in that too, because we're going to get back to that in a couple minutes. Is that easy? Absolutely not. So don't hear me saying, well, just get over it and make a new friend, because it sucks. Sometimes it really sucks. Um, One of my close friends, she and her husband felt called to move to Hawaii. And so they went from being 2 hours away, which was already hard, and already like we didn't get to see each other as much as we wanted, to now on the complete opposite side of the country. And you're here, she's a 12-hour plane ride away, and we get to see each other maybe once a year if we're lucky. And we have different time zones, and so we can't even like chat like we used to, and it changes a lot. Is she any less of my friend? Absolutely not. But our friendship does look different now because we're just not in close proximity to each other and we don't have the same anything, like I said, overlapping like we used to. So that's not necessarily the point of this podcast, but that's kind of the foundation that I wanted to lay. So you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. What I have learned about friendships in my 30s so far, I've only been 30 for almost a year, is that they're complicated. I feel like sometimes I'm in middle school again, and I don't like that. I just am like, I thought we were all adults here. I thought we were leaving this behind. Y'all didn't tell me. You don't have to tell me my collar's messed up. Hello, I'm not live, but man, my collar was jacked up and I did not even notice. Sometimes it gets really frustrating because I feel like, well, we're all grown-ups here. Why can't we act like it? And I'm sure y'all have no idea what I'm talking about, surely. But that's not to say I do friendship perfectly by any means. But it is just something that I think is very interesting to notice. So where do I want to start in my 30s? I'm going to start with this one story that really was brought to my mind when I was thinking about what kind of episode I wanted to do this week. And that is this really special story about reconciliation. So I had a really, really, really close friend. She and I met in college, and I'm trying to not like totally divulge everything to protect my friend's identity. Again, this is not like a story of me trashing them. This is about me, honestly. This is about me and how I felt that I needed to reconcile with her. So long story short, I'll just say we were best friends. Like, this was my homie. This was the Christina to my Meredith. If you're a Grey's Anatomy fan, like, this was my homegirl. And we had a very close relationship for a very long time. And then we had a huge schism in our friendship because of just some different philosophies. And again, not theological philosophies, just like literal like philosophies that we didn't agree on. And because we didn't agree on them, she felt that she needed to like distance herself from the friendship. And for me, I was like, I don't see why we need to do that. It really hurts my feelings. I don't think that's realistic or fair. And it was kind of like, well, take it or leave it. And so I left it. And I was really frustrated with this friend. And we didn't talk for 3 years. 3 years. You're so crazy. And so last winter, when my husband and my family and I were in Hawaii, I was visiting my other really close friend. We were in their vow renewal ceremony. Also put a tab in that. We've got 3 tabs. Don't let me forget where we're keeping track with. We were at Bible study. I was at a Bible study with her, and we were studying Kings. And basically, I cannot remember what verse we were in. I know it's in a journal somewhere. But the idea of what we were reading and talking about was like being a flaky friend and like being back and forth with the Lord and not being consistent with the Lord, which is what the books of First and Second Kings is about. And honestly, those are some of my favorite books in the Bible. So if you have never studied the Book of Kings, it is kind of like a chronological lineage of the kings of Israel. There was King David, there's King Solomon. After King Solomon, Israel split into two, and then there was two different kings ruling Israel. And then also there were some really good kings who followed the Lord and like kept the Israelites on path with the Lord, praising the Lord, worshiping the Lord. And then there were some really bad kings who bought in pagan gods and like were doing Baal worship and la da da da. And so it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And how the Lord dealt with those kings and the people during those different lineages when they were or were not obeying the Lord. And so kind of the gist of what we were studying was being a flaky person and being a flaky believer. And I felt so convicted. Like, I don't know how it feels for you guys when you feel conviction. For me, I literally get this like flutter right here in the middle of my chest that feels like it's just gonna like it like implode on itself if I don't move. Sometimes it's a literal movement, sometimes it's like like a speaking movement, and like the Lord will just put something on, and I know it's the Lord because it's never happened to me in my entire life until I became a Christian. And I'll just have all of a sudden this like, I should say this. And it's like, where did that come from? Why would I ever say that? So I had this feeling when we were reading this of like, I'm the flaky friend. Here I am always saying, like, I'm a loyal friend, I'm a good friend, which I do believe I am, but there's times where I am the flaky friend. And I am the one who's not being consistent with a friendship. And I just felt so convicted to reach out to my friend and tell her I'm sorry, that I'm sorry I haven't pursued you in the past 3 years. I'm sorry that I let this get between us. I'm sorry that I just let this friendship collapse. I'm sorry that, like, I wasn't able to practice forgiveness, like true forgiveness, and just not even let this bother me. And then this friend finally apologized too, and was also in agreement, like, yeah, this was really stupid. Like, I can't believe we did this. And, like, she had a lot of stuff happen to her in her life from that schism that we experienced, where she was able to actually see my point of view because of what she had gotten to experience in her life. Where after all that time in the argument and the fallout, she ended up coming to my perspective in the end. And it was just like, my gosh, why couldn't we have done that 3 years ago? Like, why did it have to be that difficult? And you know what? The Lord had his hand in it, and I'm sure it was purpose, not only for me, but for her. And it shaped us into better people, which is the whole point of being a Christian, is being shaped and sanctified to become more like Jesus. So if you're not familiar with word sanctification, that means, because you're not supposed to use the word in the definition. So being sanctified, it's like being made new, being changed, looking different, from inside out. And so when we say in Christianese, Lord is sanctifying me, the Holy Spirit is sanctifying me through XYZ, the idea is that God is changing you, changing your perspective, your character, your flaws, your strengths, your weaknesses, all for the point of looking like Christ, which as a Christian, we believe at the end of our days, and when we're in heaven and we're made perfect again, that we will look and we will finally get to be like Jesus. Not that we'll be gods, but that, like, we won't have sin in our bodies anymore when we go to heaven, because you cannot have sin in heaven. And the only sinless person to ever exist is Jesus Christ. And so, therefore, if we're going to heaven and Jesus is also dwelling in heaven, then we also will be made perfect in heaven. Praise Jesus. There's not going to be any fighting and angst and schisms in heaven. We're going to leave that here on earth. And so, like I said, I was in Hawaii, so I did this by text. And that's also another thing. Communicate, talk to people. Texting sucks. Texting is really out here ruining friendships and relationships and marriages and families, all the above. And I'm not great at that because I don't like talking on the phone. I'd rather talk in person. And so I'm really trying to get out of the habit of texting all the time, because it's just not healthy communication. But that was what I had available to me. So I texted my friend, and I was trying to be very, very specific because I did not want anything to be taken out of turn, because again, we're texting. And yeah, she reciprocated positively, and we reconnected and reconciled our friendship. It sucks because we've missed out on 3 years, and she also doesn't live in my state anymore. And so again, the proximity plays such a huge part. We get to text every so often. Hopefully, one of these days we'll get to get our families together. We both had a lot of children, and so when we have tried to visit, one or the other of us was about to have a baby, and so it just hasn't worked out. But like, that was something that I prayed about for years, that God would either give me peace to be okay with this friendship ending, or give me strength to pursue it again. And I did not feel released or able to do that until that instance at that Bible study in Hawaii with my friend. And it's just one of my favorite stories to tell, because I think nowadays people are just so easy, so quick and easy to just drop a friendship on a whim because they don't agree with something. Not like a serious thing like, well, you stole from me, oh, you hit on my husband, oh, you slapped my kid. Like, I mean, it's not, that's serious. Oh, you voted for somebody. That's stupid. That's so stupid. Who cares? Why do you care? And it's not worth breaking apart friendships for, because, okay, I already forgot all the tabs that I had brought to mind. I knew I was going to do this. I should have written them down. Because I'll just say this is topic 2. You need friendships in your 30s. You need relationships. It's so important. So something that I've definitely learned since becoming 30 about friendships is you need them. I had this proven to me this past year. I've talked about the stuff with our baby and how we had a high-risk pregnancy and we were getting medical care, and a city 2 hours away. And it was just the craziest season of our lives. And there was a long time, especially in my early 20s when we got married, where I just really felt like I didn't have community. I didn't have friends that actually cared about me. We were like one of the first couples in our friend group to get married and then also start having children pretty quickly after. And some of our friends just like dropped us because we had a kid now. So they just assumed that we were too busy. And we were like, no, like, please don't stop inviting us to stuff. Like, we need friends too. Just because we have a baby doesn't mean we don't need friendships all of a sudden. What is that? It's crazy. And it was really hurtful because if you haven't realized, if you're not a mom yet, motherhood can be very lonely. Parenting can be very lonely. And you need people. You need friends still. You need somebody to talk to that does not babble back at you and beg you for snacks. Like, it's so, so crucial to having a balanced adult life. And yeah, there was a time that I just felt like we did not have that. And my husband would agree. And one, we had moved to a new city where we didn't have a lot of friends. And so that was already difficult. But then as we kept trying to make new friends, a lot of them just weren't lasting. And I see now I'm totally at peace with that. And it is okay. And I don't take it personally. But back then it was like, this is so hard. Like, I just want a best friend again. Like, I just would love to have somebody that we can, like, call up and be, impromptu and have game nights with, or, like, be like, hey, like, will you pray for us? Like, this is a hard time, or, can we drop the kids off so we can go take a nap? Like, just stuff like that. And we just didn't have that for a while, and that was hard. But the Lord has really reaped, like, a huge harvest for us of really close-knit friendships that we prayed for so long. And you know what? We had to work for those friendships. We had to really work for them. And that looked like cutting back on extracurriculars and work so that we would have the space to have people over and host. We went to like a couples community group for about a year with a different church than our home church, just so we could make friends and like meet people. And I wouldn't say that we made close friends out of that community group, but we made some really great acquaintances. And it was really good for that season, and it really got us out of our shell. And let's see, we joined a new church, and so just trying to take opportunities to fellowship at church in big settings and in small settings, like one-on-one with other couples or group settings with couples. Our church has like a pickleball night, and so we started this week going to the pickleball night. We take our kids for about an hour and go play pickleball with people from church. And so it's taken a lot of initiative on our part and on other people's parts. Yeah, this past year when we were ripping and running, having all these appointments and having surgeries for the baby and NICU, we had so many of our friends show up for us, watching our kids, picking up our kids from school. This is also family. In Dallas, where we were getting medical treatment, meeting us there, letting us drop our kids off. When we were in the NICU, some of our old friends from our old city bought us like dinner and stuff. I mean, it was just like, what is going on? Like, this is amazing. It was the most meaningful thing in the entire world. And so, if you are somebody who thinks you can do it alone, you cannot do it alone. You can't. And if that takes you needing to go to therapy to learn how to be a good friend, then do that. Because it is so crucial. And you never know. You never know when you're going to need somebody's help. And you never know when you're going to be that help for somebody. And if you don't have the ability to do that, not even just like, it doesn't, like, there's not even finances that go into it. Honestly, it's time and willingness. And if you don't have the time and you're not willing, like, you really need to dive deep and figure out why and change that and learn how to be selfless, because it is a huge blessing. And again, not that you should be tit for tat, but someday you're going to need that. And if you have not put that skill into practice, and if you're not somebody who's willing to show up for other people, then it's kind of foolish for you to expect people to show up for you. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about, I cannot remember the order, but I was going to bring up a friendship that I mentioned earlier that I had been roommates with, and that I'm not friends with anymore. So this technically is not in my 30s, but I'm praying that my 30s will bring reconciliation with this friend. And so again, to protect identity, and the gist of it, this friend was somebody I was roommates with college, went to college with, very close with, very, very close friends with. Even my husband was close friends with this person, and they got married, and we were good friends with their husband, and just somebody that I looked forward to doing life with forever and ever. Amen. And unfortunately, that person and their husband got divorced, and I never knew. I didn't know until it was finalized, and they like shared with the masses that they were going through this. And so I reached out and I was like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I was surprised I had no idea. Like, I had been in this person's wedding, I had advocated for this relationship. Um, and they didn't really want to share why. They shared that like they had their inner circle that they were dealing with this with, and kind of the more people that they had to share it with, like the details with, the murkier it made things, and just kind of the more traumatic, which I understood. So I was like, okay, I'm glad you have your people. I'm glad you have your circle. I'm here if you need anything. But then like I would keep reaching out and they would never respond, and I was finally like, did I do something? And they shared that I really don't even know the details, so it's helpful to keep this anonymous, but like that their husband had said something about my husband and I to them to convince this person that we were not good friends or safe friends. And I don't know what it was, and I have no idea what it could have been because, again, we went far back. So for me, I'm assuming it was kind of some manipulation or like abusive control. I literally don't know. And I'm probably so annoying. Tell me if I'm annoying. Would this be really annoying? But I text this friend every so often, every birthday. Happy birthday, love you, hope to hear from you. Hey, thinking about you, love you, hope to hear from you. Every couple months, and they don't respond anymore. I just keep texting, and I pray that someday they will respond because I really miss them. And it's been really hard not having this friend in my life. And brought this up on my Threads account. I'm gonna put it right here. I'm gonna put it right there so you can read it because I think people had really good responses too. But I kind of wrote about this friendship, and people were just sharing like their thoughts, their opinions. One of the thoughts was that like, well, maybe this person didn't feel the same way about the friendship as you did, where like I held it in higher esteem than they did, or that maybe this person is just hurting so deeply that they just do not have the capacity to take on any more relationships, even though this was a close relationship and somebody that they used to lean heavy on. And I don't know which one it is because they don't answer me, so I don't know. But that's something that I'm praying for in my 30s, for this friendship to be reconciled. And like right now, I feel a lot more at peace about not having this person in my life anymore. Like just giving up the control and not feeling so, like not taking it so personally, but it's taken me a while to get there. Because yeah, it was just really sudden, really out of the blue, really random, and just with no explanation. And so that's been really difficult. But God is good. All the time, He's good. And if He could reconcile me and my old best friend, I know He can do that with this friend. And if He doesn't, it's for His good and for His glory, and ultimately for my good. Praise God. So I'm currently going through this interesting scenario with somebody who I genuinely am like, are you a friend? Are you not a friend? So this is kind of actually going to go together well with watching your back because I'm trying to figure out if this person is actually a friend or actually kind of like a subtle sabotager. Okay. So this person is a little older than me. I also really think it's important to have friends on both sides. People that are older than you have already gone through stuff decades ago, who have life experience. I mean, up to 80 years old. I have some friends that are 80, 70, and I love them. They're awesome. They love to give wisdom. They love to hug a kid, and they love to like, just have young people in their life again and um feel that they have something to contribute to the world still, and have people that want to hear their life stories because they lived a lot of life. And I'm like, hey, look, if you're going to share it, I'm going to listen, because some people will sell this type of information for hundreds of dollars, and you're willing to come sit on my couch and tell me for free. Come on over. And then also having people who are younger. And I mean, not just like a couple years younger than me, but learning how to engage with like middle school age, little kids, teenagers, learn, because they are people too, and they have feelings too. And so obviously I'm not like texting a teenager. No, for me, that looks like when I'm at church and I pass by the little kids at church, I always say, "Hi, ladies, how are you? You look pretty today." Or if some of them come up to me and have like a little conversation with me, then I keep having a conversation with them because they're little people and they deserve to be seen and talked to as well. And it's, I think, as an adult, important to learn how to engage with little kids, and because they're going to learn from you. So it's not even just you learning how to get down on a little kid's level. You're getting to share with them how to have an adult conversation, how to have a proper conversation, how to look somebody in the eye and say, "Hi, how are you?" or "Thank you," or "Oh, maybe we shouldn't run in the hallway," or whatever. And just be respectful of little people, because I think sometimes the little people, as in little kids, not little people, they don't get the respect that they deserve, because just because you're a kid doesn't mean you don't deserve respect as well. Not the point. The point is, this friend is a little older than me, and I thought they're cool. I'll just say that. You're cool. I like what you're doing. Let's hang out. Can't hang out. Okay. I will meet you where you're at. So that looked like us hanging out for about 20 minutes after an exercise class. Super cool. And it was great. Then I had to stop going to the exercise class. If you follow me on Instagram, you see that. Oh, actually, don't mind my messy office. There's my gym. That's my little gym that you guys see me exercising on during the week, because I'm trying to get fit. So I don't go to the gym anymore because I walk to it right here to save time and money and energy. And also, so my kids aren't getting sick at the gym daycare all the time because I don't have time for that. Anyway, so I had to stop going to that. And so we had to stop like going on those walks, which is when we had the opportunity to hang out. So a lot of our messaging, like a lot of our interaction has been over text. And the past couple interactions that we've had have just been like, this isn't sitting right with me. To the point where I have just gotten, like, I just started getting more and more and more discouraged. And not because, like, again, I'm trying to be vague because, especially since I'm having a solo episode, I want to, one, protect people's identities, and also, they're not here to defend themselves. And my goal is never to trash somebody. My goal is to never ruin somebody's reputation. And also, like, I will not gossip. I refuse to participate in that. So I want to be very, very, very aware of how I'm handling these topics, but especially since these people are not here to defend themselves and give their side of the story. And if I was going to be frank about those things, then I would want them here next to me, getting to contribute as well. Okay. So yeah, and it's not even just that, like, this person isn't texting me back or leaving me on read. It's just that, like, one of the things that I've noticed is that this person will repeat stuff to me that we've already, like, talked about, especially in person. But I notice it's, like, the stuff that they tell everybody, where there's, like, doesn't seem to be a tier of privacy in their life. Nothing is seemingly private for them. Does that make sense? Because you know how you reserve certain parts of life for certain people? Like, not everybody gets to know your business. Not everybody should know your business. Maybe you don't know that. Not everybody, because not everybody has your back, right? Not everybody needs to know your business. So something that I've been really fleshing out, because I also saw this on Threads, was like kind of like a red flag in friendships. And I'm gonna put it right here as well, so you guys can read it. This thing I saw on Threads that had me really thinking about this, because I was like, you know what? That is weird. That is weird that like this person said, our conversations don't seem to have any importance because it's just the exact same stuff you're telling everybody else. Seemingly, I can't. From what I can tell, it's the same stuff everybody else is getting. So I don't really get to know you. You know what I'm saying? Especially if I'm like having an in-person interaction with you and I'm getting the same interaction as your online community gets with you. That's kind of weird, right? Am I going crazy? Okay, well, the second thing was where I asked for a favor from this person, from this friend, and they said they couldn't do the favor, and I said, fine. They ended up giving their opinion for this favor unsolicited, even though they said that like they weren't going to or they couldn't. And it was just really unhelpful. Like, it was just really unhelpful to the point of like discouragement, where I was like, none of my other friends who I know a lot better than you have said anything to this capacity to me. So it's like, you're the only person in my life who is saying this stuff, which doesn't mean I should just disregard it, because maybe you do see something else other people in my life don't see. But nobody else has had this type of thing to say to me in this type of way, waving the red flag. And so something that I've definitely learned that I definitely want to take into my 30s, and you can leave your thoughts about these friendship scenarios that I've shared. You know, I really want to hear your comments, and I also really want to hear your stories. I am willing to be wrong, but I also feel like there's somebody out there who probably has gone through a scenario similar to this that can give me some insight, because I feel like there's just something I am not missing, or just even like some confirmation I would love to have of like, yes, what you're saying is valid. These are some red flags to look at. These are some ways that you can know, because this person is probably never going to straight up tell me what their intentions were. But one of my goals this summer is to confront them, which is really hard. It's really hard. I really don't want to confront this person, but I've really felt the Lord put it on my heart to go in faith and be brave and talk to this person in person about these situations. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm intimidated by this person. I don't think they're gonna hurt me by any means, especially not physically, but I do recognize that I think I'm afraid of their words, like what they're gonna have to say, because they've already kind of shown that they can be hurtful with their words, and nobody wants to be hurt by people's words. And I recognize I am more sensitive to people being hurtful with their words, which is very interesting because I feel like, especially before I was a Christian, I would fight with my words. Like, I would not physically fight you, but I could put a string of sentences together to make you feel like a pile of dog poop, if you know what I'm saying. So isn't it ironic that that hurts my feelings? Oh my goodness. I don't do that anymore because, hello, I'm under the sanctifying hand of the Lord Jesus Christ, and I don't like that feeling myself, so I'm not going to do that to other people. But I will admit, I'm intimidated by this friendship, by this person. And so I don't want to have this conversation, but I feel like me not having this conversation with this person is not doing them any favors, and is just kind of like letting them get away with murder, because they're just going to keep doing this to somebody until other people tell them, hey, like, the way you're talking, the way you're communicating, the things you're saying are hurtful because XYZ. So pray for me that I will find my big girl panties to put on and have this talk with this grown woman that I don't want to have this talk with, because, oh my goodness, we're grown-ups. Why is this so hard? Okay, so the last thing is, not everybody has your back. And that's something that I have taken very seriously in my 30s. I talk about this to my husband a lot sometimes, because again, I watch a lot of YouTube. I enjoy watching other creators and what they have to say, what they have to think. And something that I've listened to a lot are like, I swear, every couple weeks I get hung up on this topics, super random topics. Okay, so one of the topics I was hung up on were these stories about divorce regret, and women who left their husbands, divorced their husbands, and then regretted it. It's on YouTube. I shared about it on Threads. People started attacking me, and I was like, I didn't make the content. I'm just watching it. Don't get mad at me. Don't tell me I've never heard of such a thing, okay? Because there's like literally hundreds of videos on YouTube about this type of thing. So maybe you should go watch them before you comment, just saying. And one of the things that would come up in these videos were just like, hey, if you got a good man, keep him close, because you never know who's watching your relationship just wishing that they could have it, and who are crazy enough to try and take it. And granted, I know my husband is not stupid enough to try and do that, but I wouldn't put it past some of these women to try and, like, I don't know, sabotage my life and steal my husband, because why not? If you're that miserable, why wouldn't you? What's stopping you? And just something that my husband and I have also really come to terms with is that, like, not everybody should be your friend. They really shouldn't. There's some people who are just toxic in nature because they are manipulative, or they will trauma dump and they have no boundaries, or they are not responsible, and God forbid they ever do something and your name gets wrapped up in their mess and they take you down with them. Or they're jealous and envious and would love nothing more than to see you fail, and are even wishing for that. And I'm not saying by any means that I have experienced all of these. I just know that it exists. And so you just never know what's going on behind closed doors in people's life, especially with like all of these like vlogging and family vloggers out here, where people, I think, kind of what I see is sometimes I think people are trying to get ahead of the assumptions of their life to like set up this reputation that people won't question, and build people's trust, which is manipulative, so that they could, get ahead of their downfall. Does that make sense? And I just kind of see those themes in some of these family vloggers that I watch. It just gives me the ick. It gives me big time ick where I'm like, ooh, I just don't trust that this is really how this is going down behind closed doors. And if everything in your life is on a camera, I don't trust you. Things need to be private. Not everybody should know your business. That's not healthy. That's not normal. Especially not for a grown person, not normal. And so there's been a couple times where my husband and I recently even have experienced backstabbing with people who we thought were friends, especially as entrepreneurs, man. And that, there is nothing like that type of hurt. There is nothing like being stabbed in the back by somebody who you have been doing life with and working with, and, they had double life, and like there's nothing you can do about that other than tighten your shoelaces a lot tighter, say a prayer, and move on. And then also just be a better, like, what's the word, observer next time. So yeah, be careful out there. And again, this is interesting because something that I know about myself is that I can automatically be like very skeptical about new people, always feeling like somebody's out to get me, or like believing the worst in people. And so something that I've been really, 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 really trying to grow in personally the past couple of years is believing the best in others before believing the worst in others, until they prove me wrong. And so this is not to say like, hey, be out here watching your back. Always assume that somebody's out to get you. No, 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 no. Don't do that. Now, should you follow your instincts? Absolutely, because sometimes our gut is spot on and we need to listen to it. But we also should not project our hurts and our insecurities on other people or on new relationships because we've been hurt in the past. Everybody deserves a chance. Now, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And fool me 3 times, then you're just an ignoramus, clearly. Because it's from the Cracker Barrel game. You know what I'm talking about? The little triangle. And if you're an ignoramus. And I know I'm probably not saying it right, but just so you know the joke, that's what it's from. So, again, I feel like you should give people the benefit of the doubt until they prove you wrong. Or until, like, you see these red flags waving, and you don't confront the red flags, or somebody brings it to your attention and you're just like, oh, you're just whatever. No, 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 no. Listen to what they have to say. So that is my episode about friendships in your 30s. I think they are so important. I think there's a lot to gain from them. And I look forward to seeing how my friendships are going to get to develop in my 30s this upcoming decade. So I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. Definitely share them below. Thank you for tuning in. And again, come back these next coming weeks because I got some more episodes coming for y'all and they're going to be really good and I cannot wait to share them. Peace out.